Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I am your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in for yet another week. I hope you guys are doing amazing. I'm really excited to get into this week's topic, which is the idea of letting go and the importance of letting go and how to navigate that concept and apply it into your life. Because I've learned through my journey that letting go is one of the most important things that you need to start embodying, right? And a lot of people have such a negative connotation with letting go, or they're not exposed to what letting go actually is, right? They don't really fully understand that concept and what it means to let go, right? I know we've all heard the saying, let go and let God. What does that even mean for real, right? It means, and we're going to dive more into it, obviously, but to keep it simple, it means letting go of the things that you can't control, right? Letting go of this false sense of security, letting go of the need to feel like we have to control every part of our lives, and letting God work, right? Opening up space to let the universe work in your life. That is what letting go is about. Obviously, there's more intricacies to it, and we're going to get into that. But it's important to understand that letting go will drastically change your life. It really will. And I've seen it in my own life. It has completely shifted my perspective. It's completely shifted the way I feel on a day-to-day basis, the way I view the journey of life, the way I view things that come into my life. It's completely shifted all of that. And I think letting go is something that we can all do. We all have the power to let go. And I think it also brings a sense of peace to know that this life isn't so much about attaining more or becoming more, but rather letting go of everything that isn't us so that we can be who we were made to be, right? We can tap back into that inner child that we once were before we were indoctrinated or programmed or conditioned to believe certain things or to see life a certain way or to shut off that inner light that we have, right? Why do we even hold on in the first place? One of the biggest reasons we hold on to people, places, things is the fear of uncertainty or change. Because we have this false sense of security that we've been rooted in since we were young, we fear change. We fear uncertainty, right? We want to have control over the outcomes in our lives. We want to have control over the things that we're getting involved in our lives, right? And when it's time to, let go of things, letting go requires you to step into the unknown, to step into uncertainty. And that can be incredibly scary and incredibly difficult to do. So we don't. Right? Because we've lived our whole life rooted in fear, allowing fear to be the driving force for our life, right? And this fear, this cloud of fear over us has become so daunting and so strong that when it's time to let go of certain things or step into the unknown or step into a new season or step into uncertainty, the fear is just too great. And we just resort back to where we are and we stay stuck in places or relationships or environments that no longer serve us, right? So that's one reason. Like we talked about, the desire of control as a form of security. This illusion of security comes from a place of insecurity within ourselves. When you are truly secure and rooted in the truth of who you actually are within yourself, you're not going to place your security or your identity in the things of the external world because you understand that the external world is constantly moving. Things come and go. People come and go. Places come and go. If you try to attach yourself to all these things, you're going to constantly feel overwhelmed. You're going to constantly feel stressed. And it's just going to be a hard way to live life, right? And a lot of people live their whole life attaching themselves to all these things externally, not willing to let them go because they have rooted their identity or their sense of control into these things. And now when God wants to remove those things out of their life and bring other beautiful things into their life, it doesn't happen because we get in the way because of that attachment, because of our false sense of security and control over things that we don't have control over. And then attachments to identities, outcomes, and relationships. We touched on this a little bit already, but there's an old Buddhist quote, and it says, attachment is the root of all suffering. When I first heard that, obviously it was a alienated term, and I was like, what does that even mean? But as I started to dive more into, philosophy, spirituality, and opening myself up and being curious about life, I started to get exposed to things that made that make more sense to me. Attachment is the root of all suffering. I need you guys to understand, as human beings, as spirits, as souls, we have a constant flow of life that is running through us. We have a current of life running through us, right? What tends to happen is this current, this flow of life brings in new people, new opportunities, new situations, right? And what we do, because our society is rooted in ego and rooted in fear, rather than letting this flow of life bring new people and new situations and then remove certain people and remove situations, we stop the flow of life because we attach ourselves to the things that come in, right? So we get into relationships with people, or we get into careers, or we get into new environments, and we place our identity or we place our security into these things, which creates an attachment, right? And when you have an attachment, you are literally blocking more things from wanting to come into your life, more blessings, more relationships, more people. And you're literally stunting your growth. And it's causing all this space that you once had for beautiful things to come into your life. It's closing that off. And that's what creates stress. That's what creates misery. That's what creates suffering. And that's why attachment is the root of all suffering. And what you have to understand is, when you attach yourself to certain things, you're creating an inner dam. That's what I like to call it. You're creating an inner dam. So because you're not willing to let this person go, or let this thing go, or let this environment go, you're blocking the things that God and the universe want to bring into your life, right? Because you've rooted yourself into these things. You have rooted your security into these things. You have attached yourself to these things, right? And all it does is create more struggle, more adversity, more suffering. And what letting go does is, letting go moves you from attachment to connection. That is what letting go does. Letting go moves you from attachment to connection. Here's the difference between attachment and connection. Attachment is rooted in fear, right? And ego. Connection is rooted in love and spirit. The difference is, with connection is, you understand there's a flow of life. So you are going to allow things to come into your life that are meant to come into your life, and you're going to embrace them for what they are. You're going to learn from them. You're going to grow with them. You're going to do whatever you're meant to do with them. And then because you're connected, you're going to know when it's time to step away, or you're going to know when the relationship or the career or whatever it is has gotten to that point where it's time to separate. And you're going to allow that process to happen gracefully. It doesn't mean it's not going to hurt. It doesn't mean it's not going to bring pain or heartbreak, right? Or you're not going to be sad when you have to let go of these things. But it's not going to be a sadness and a hurt from despair and losing yourself. It's going to be a sadness and a hurt from gratitude, right? You're grateful for this thing, right? And you're hurt that it's time to let this thing go. But you understand that's the flow of life, and you understand what's to come is so much better than what was. That's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. And I think one of the things we have to first do is really change our perspective on letting go. You need to understand that letting go isn't passive. It's an active choice to release control over things you have no control over. That is what letting go is. It's not passive. It's not like you're just floating through life, letting what happens, and just hoping for the best. No, it's an active choice to release control over the things you have no control over. And right there, you're already creating so much space for beautiful things to happen in your life. You're right there taking so much energy back. And now you can apply that energy into things that are self-giving and loving and serve you to the best of your ability rather than take from you, right? Letting go means releasing resistance to life's natural flow. Like I said, there is this natural flow of life that is constantly wanting to come through us and work in us. And what we're doing is we're getting out of the way of that flow, and we're allowing it to come through us, and we're allowing God to work in us rather than getting in the way because we want to attach ourselves to these things from a place of fear and ego, right? Not all relationships are meant to be in your life forever. Some people come into your life for seasons to teach you certain things, and then that's it. Not all careers are meant to be lifelong careers. Sometimes you're meant to go into an environment or into a job, learn certain things, grow, and then you reach a certain point where it's time to step away. That's what connection does. But you can only learn how to connect to these things when you are rooted in love, when you are rooted in gratitude, when you are rooted in authenticity, when you are aligned with your highest self, or at least have the intention for that, right? Because there's never a point where you're set and everything's perfect. This journey of growth and evolution is a journey. It's a process, right? So you're always going to be growing. You're always going to be evolving. You're always going to be learning, right? You're always going to have to let go of certain things. But the illusion that we have in society is that letting go means we're losing something. But the reality of the situation is when you let go, you actually gain everything. Letting go is what creates space for the right things to come into your life, right? Attachments and holding on blocks the right things from coming into your life. Because since you are moving on in seasons and since you are constantly growing, what once was may not be what you need in the moment you are in or in the season you are in, right? But because we attach ourselves to what once was, we're not able to get what is for us in the season that we're in because we're still attached to people, places, and things that we experienced in the past. So you have to let that flow of life work through you, right? Let that flow of life work through you. Letting go of the shoulds, letting life be as it is rather than what we think it should be. Man. Your life will become so much more peaceful when you stop feeling like things are going wrong all the time, or it needs to go this way, or it should have went this way. And you just let go and start embracing what is, right? Start embracing what is. That's the beauty in the journey. That's the magic in the journey. Rather than feeling like you have to have everything figured out, why don't you allow God to start working and see how things unfold? That is where the magic comes from. That's where the excitement for the journey comes from. What is the excitement in knowing how everything's going to work out? Where is the excitement in that? If you went to a movie and you knew exactly how the movie was going to go and how it was going to end, it's going to take away from the joy of being able to go to a movie that you've never seen before and watch it unfold. It's the same in our lives. This idea that we need to have everything figured out, we need to know how everything's going to go, is stopping us from really enjoying what this journey of life is about. It's about leaning into the unknown and not knowing what the next season holds, but understanding that with God, things are always working in your favor, and you get to watch how things unfold in your life. That is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. And however you identify with that, right? Christian, Muslim, Hindu, I don't care. However you identify with that, understand this applies to everybody, right? The power of God lives within each and every human being walking this earth. Everybody has an opportunity. Everybody has the ability to tap into that power and to allow God in the flow of life to work in them and through them and around them, right? It's just about surrendering. That is what letting go is. It's surrendering to the flow of life. It's not, like we said, passively just floating and not doing anything. No, you're surrendering control to the things that you have no control over. And you're taking your energy back and you're putting it into the things that you do have control over. And guess what you have control over? This moment. That's it. You don't have control over an hour from now. You don't have control over 2 hours from now because those moments don't exist right now. All that exists is this moment. So focus all that energy that you've been given to things that you have no control over, the past, the future, right? Next week, next month. Take all that energy back and apply it to what you have right now in the present and watch how your life starts to change. Watch how much peace starts to come into your life. As you start to take that energy and focus on being the best you can in this moment, God is going to take care of the 6-month mark, the year mark, the 2-year mark. Right? God's doing all the long-term work. You just need to take your energy and focus on this moment, right? And that's what connection allows for. Connection allows you to turn your gaze from always focusing on the things that you don't have and the things you don't have control over to the one thing you do have control over. And that's what you decide to do in this moment, right now. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing when you start to shift into that energy and start to live your life from that place. It's a beautiful thing. One of the first things you need to learn how to do in order to really, really learn how to let go, let God, let the flow of the universe work through you, is you need to learn how to trust the flow of the universe. You need to learn how to trust in God's plan. How do you do that? You need to first cultivate something, having faith in something greater than yourself, right? You need to understand that there is a greater power at work. That's the first thing. If you don't believe that there's a greater power at work, you can't trust in anything. You're not going to be willing to let go of anything because you feel like you are the only person that has control, right? You are the only person in your vehicle, right? But you need to understand that God's in there with you, right? God is in that vehicle with you, and y'all are working together. It is a collaboration. And when you let go and let God, you're going to get to exactly where you need to be. But your job is to make sure that the car keeps running. Your job is to give the car gas. Your job is to go under the vehicle's hood and make sure the oil is changed, right? And everything's working right. But let God drive the car. Let God drive the car and see where you get to. Just make sure that that car in the moment is working properly. That's a good analogy. I got to start using that more. I like that. But learning to trust. And a lot of it comes from trusting in your intuition, trusting in yourself, right? I'm reading this book right now called Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nugent. I'm almost done with it. I have like one more chapter. But I've been really taking my time with this book, and I'm probably going to reread it because it's a really, really good book, and it talks so much about letting go. So much of our suffering comes from thinking all the time. And what does thinking come from? It comes from us trying to figure out everything and get everything right and have control, have this sense of control over everything and want to do everything. You need to let go of it. Just let go of it and start to be in the moment, right? Have fun with this life. This life is not meant to be stressful all the time. This life is not meant to be painful all the time. This life is not meant to be thinking all the time. Because a lot of times when you're thinking, you're not doing. A lot of times when you're overthinking, you're not just being. You're not in the moment, right? That's what thinking comes from. Thinking comes from not being present, not being in the moment. When you're in the flow state, for all my athletes out there, I know you guys can attest to this. When you're in the flow state, you're not thinking anything. You're just doing. And the beautiful thing about that is we all have access to that power right now. And this is why awareness is so important. We always talk about awareness, but the goal is not to be in the flow state 100% of the time. The goal is to have the awareness of when you aren't in the flow state so that you can bring your attention back to the present and get back into the flow, right? Catch yourself when you're not. That's what the awareness is for. And then bring yourself back, right? And however you do that, that's for you to figure out. That's why you need to be curious and go down that inner journey, go down the journey of self-discovery and figure out how that process looks for you, because it's going to look different for everybody. Everybody's technique, everybody's way of getting back into the present moment will be different, right? Because you are a unique human being and you need to figure out what works for you. Because we're a society rooted in ego, we think that one way should work for everybody. That is the furthest thing from the truth. God made us different for a reason. God did not make us different so that we can neglect our uniqueness and all try to be the same. That is literally counterintuitive. It literally is going against the law of the universe, right? It is literally going against what God created us to do. And that's to be our unique self, because your unique self has a certain thing that the world needs. But if you don't know how to tap into that uniqueness, if you don't go down that journey of figuring out who you are and looking within yourself, letting go of these attachments and starting to be connected, you're never going to be able to fully operate in your authentic self, in your highest self. And one thing I've learned about collaborating with the Creator, collaborating with God, collaborating with the universe, is that God can only collaborate with you when you are staying true to the gift that you were given. God cannot use somebody else's gift with you. That's not how this works. And so often Because we're rooted in ego, we're constantly looking at other people's lives. We're constantly looking at other people's gifts, trying to imitate that for our lives. And then when it doesn't work for our lives, we feel like, man, we're just not good enough. Man, they're just special. No. They're just staying true to their gift. You need to figure out where your gift is and allow God to help you and collaborate with you in that, right? In that. But if you're attached to all these things, people, places, things, ideas, social media, whatever it is, you'll never truly be able to find that. Because in order to find your gift, you have to learn how to let go so that you create space for the right things to come up and to come in, right? Understand that not everything needs to be figured out right now. Life unfolds on its own time. Divine timing. You need to understand you don't have to have everything figured out in this moment. You don't. And if you did, where's the joy in that? Okay, let's say everything's figured out. Now what? Right, my point exactly. It's like, bro, that's not that it's like we really don't understand, and we really are not able to see that everything that we do in society, y'all, goes against what we were made to do. Everything. But we try to find the answers, we try to find solutions in the problems. We literally use what causes the problems to try to find solutions. Come on. It don't work like that, man. It don't work like that. We need to understand that this life was not meant to be figured out. This life was meant to be experienced. It's a very, very different thing. And the only way you're going to experience life fully is to be connected to everything but attached to nothing. When you feel like you need to figure everything out, you're rooted in attachment and not connection, right? And that's what creates so much stress and anxiety in your life. Unneeded too. You don't need to do that. It doesn't help you at all. And there is another way. That's the beautiful thing about this life. There is actually another way. It's just, are you willing to make that choice? Actively and consciously every single day. Are you going to be perfect? No. But we're not worried about being perfect. We're worried about bringing awareness into our life so that we can learn from the times that we're falling off track. Bring ourselves back on track. Learn from what we just did. Gain the wisdom from it and keep moving forward. Right? Keep moving forward. This life is not meant to be figured out. This life is meant to be lived and experienced, right? If you knew everything, then where's the fun in that? If you knew how everything was going to work out, where's the wisdom going to come from, right? If you knew how this thing was going to happen, where's the experience going to come from, right? Where's the excitement going to come from? You know? Come on. So, yeah, learn how to trust in yourself. Learn how to trust in your intuition, right? Because that is where God will talk to you. God gave us intuition so that we would listen to it. So often we neglect our intuition and then pray to God for answers. We neglect our intuition, which is the inner guidance that God has given us to listen to. We neglect that. And then we pray for answers. And when we feel like we don't get the answers, we get frustrated, right? We start to get resentful because we feel like God isn't listening to us. God gave you everything you needed the day you were born. You were born with everything that you needed within yourself. Intuition is literally God's way of speaking to you and guiding you, right? That's literally what intuition is. Whether you believe it or not, that's one thing. But it is the truth. The intuition, that inner voice that you have that's always telling you, go for it. Put yourself out there. But no, we allow fear to stop us. We allow attachments to stop us. We allow this false sense of security to stop us. But guess what you have right now? An opportunity to choose something different. To choose a new way of looking at life, right? Now, here's the thing with this. Don't expect things to just get easy just because you say, oh, all right, I'm going to let go or I'm going to change my perspective. It's not that life gets easier. It just changes, right? You become more strong. You become more equipped. And it takes time, right? Just like going to the gym. In order to get stronger, it takes time. You're not going to go to the gym one day and just automatically be able to lift the weight that you want to lift, right? If your goal is 225 and you haven't lifted before, you're not just going to go in there and be able to lift 225 just because you're like, all right, now I'm making the change to go to the gym. That's not how it works. You're like, okay, now I want to, what happens is you're like, okay, now I want to make the change. I'm going to choose to start going to the gym. Then you start going to the gym, and you have to start from the ground up. So you got to start with a weight that you can lift right now. And sometimes for some people, that's the bar. We'll start with the bar, and you keep moving. And every week you progressively overload. Not perfectly overload, progressively overload. Progress. And then eventually you reach that 225 mark after how many months or whatever it is, so many months. And because you've fallen so much in love with the journey, you don't stop at 225. You keep on going because you understand that, well, I don't want to stay here. I want to constantly keep growing because I love the journey of getting better, of getting up every single day and doing something that is challenging me, but also making me better in the long term. So, yes, let go of the need to want to have everything figured out right now and allow for the joy of life and the excitement of life to surprise you. Let God start to really show you what miracles and magic is, because it's going to happen. When you let go, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Attachment comes from a place of fear or need. It's holding on tightly to outcomes, people, or ideas. Connection, on the other hand, is rooted in love, openness, and acceptance. It allows relationships and experiences to evolve naturally. Right? If you plant a apple tree, and let's just say an apple tree grew in 6 months, right? If you plant an apple tree, you got to understand, well, you do understand that there is a natural evolution to that process, and you have to let it grow in order to bear the fruit. It's the same in our lives, right? There is a natural evolutionary process to our lives, and you have to allow yourself to go through that process without trying to get in the way or expedite the process, right? Or feel like, oh no, I need to be doing, no, let the flow of life, let the evolution happen naturally. Our job is just to stay patient, trust in the journey, continue to bring awareness to the present, and take it one day at a time, one moment at a time. It says attachment binds us because it seeks to control or possess, leading to suffering when expectations aren't met. That's another thing too. Let go of expectations. That's kind of feeling like you need to have everything figured out. Expectations will literally cause so much suffering in your life. And you don't even realize, a lot of people don't realize, when I realized this, changed my whole perspective on setting expectations. When you have an expectation of how you think things should go, you are literally standing between you and what God wants to do in your life. That is literally what you are doing with expectations. I'm not saying you shouldn't expect yourself to do well in life and want to be better, that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. That expectation is different. You should expect that good things are coming. You should expect that you're going to continue to grow. You should expect that in this life you'll have many experiences, right? But you should not set expectations for how things should look. You should not put expectations for what you think your life needs to be, what needs to be happening in your life right now or at a certain period of time, because you are literally getting in the way of what God wants to do in your life. That's literally what you are doing, what the universe wants to bring into your life, right? Because everything is connected. Everything is connected. The only expectation you should have for your life is whatever happens, I'm going to be open to it. That's what I expect from myself. No matter what happens in my life, I'm going to be open to the lessons in it. I'm going to be open to the growth in it. I'm going to be open to what God has for me in it. That is the only expectation I'm setting for my life. Because any other expectation is just going to get in the way of what God is trying to do. That is literally what it's going to do, right? Connection gives freedom. Attachment takes it away. Whoo! Connecting with life means participating without needing to change or manipulate it. Come on, man. Come on. And that's why being rooted in fear or being rooted in an ego can literally take away your joy. Because when you are rooted in ego and rooted in fear and rooted in scarcity, right? And you start to attach yourself to all these things, people, places, things, ideas, all this stuff. You are getting in the way of the flow of how your life or what your life wants to bring you, right? Like, this is an experience. This is a video game. You're the main character, right? Allow for things to come into your life and surprise you. Be open so that things can come in that you never would have thought would come in. Blessings will come in from ways that you never would have thought they would come in. But we get in the way of all that because we get so fixated on this thing, on this idea, on this person. And if it doesn't look like that, we don't want it. Let go of the idea and the attachments to how you think things should be going, and watch how your life will change. How to shift from attachment to connection. The first point, focus on being present in your interactions and experiences. When you stop feeling the need to control everything or have expectations for how things should go, it allows you to be present and experience things for what they are rather than what you think they should be. And that is incredibly liberating. That is incredibly liberating. And that's where you get out of the way of what God is trying to show you with this thing or with this experience or with this person. You get out of the way. Appreciate what is without demanding that it stays the same. That is what connection allows. It allows you to be grateful for what you have without the attachment or the need for it to stay like this or to keep it in your life, right? I'm going to appreciate the season that I'm in and everything that brings. But when it's time for me to evolve and grow into a new season, I'm going to do that. I'm going to allow the flow of life to work through me, right? And that's going to mean letting go of certain people, places, environments, and habits or materialistic things, right? We're not attaching ourselves to these things. We're connected to them. We're learning from them. We're gaining the wisdom from the experience, the knowledge from this person or this thing. And then we're going to continue to evolve and grow and bring that wisdom and that knowledge into the next season in our life. That is a beautiful thing. And that's what evolution is. That's literally what growing is, right? Growing. Practice gratitude for the moments and relationships as they are. You know, a lot of times because we're still attached to things in the past, we try to make the things in the present the way they were in the past, right? We bring past experiences, past attachments from relationships and things that we've been through into new relationships and new endeavors, right? We bring those into these things. Instead of allowing this relationship to be what it's meant to be, we want it to be like the attachment of the past, the relationship of the past, right? I mean, that's just toxic. That's how things just get really, really tricky, right? Rigid. There we go. Tricky and rigid. That's what happens. Because we're so attached to a past experience or a past relationship, we are constantly looking for things in the present to fill that void of that attachment from the past, rather than letting go of the things of the past, learning from them, growing from them, and then embracing what is today. Allowing the relationships that we are in today, the environments that we are in today, the places that we are at today to be what they are rather than what we think they should be, right? Rather than what we think they should be. Letting go just creates space for the right things to come in. Remember that. Letting go creates space for the right things to come in. When you let go, you don't lose everything. You gain everything. Rumi says life is a balance of holding on and letting go. And this is wisdom, right? This is wisdom because there are certain things that are meant to be in your life long term. And there's certain things that are meant to be in your life short term. You need to find the balance between understanding what's meant to stay and what's meant to leave, right? What's meant to stay and what is meant to leave. And by holding on, that doesn't mean attaching yourself to it. It's just understanding, right, this connection that you have to this thing. Okay, this, we're together and a month later, we're still connected. 5 years later, we're still connected. That was meant to be long term. Some other people or some other things were meant to be short term, right? We were connected the first month, second month, third month, and then our growth had reached a place to where the connection is actually pushing us apart, not pulling us together. And that's part of connection too. You have to be willing to go with the flow of life, right? When I let go of what I think, I allow what's meant to be. When I let go of what I think, I allow what is meant to be. Sometimes letting go is an act far greater. Sometimes letting things go is an act of far greater power than defending or hanging on. That is a fact. You want to talk about empowerment? Learn how to let go, right? People have this false sense of control, false sense of power, and that's what creates the inability to let go, because you feel like if I let go of this person, if I let go of this thing, if I let go of this security, I'm losing power, right? But that's the illusion that we have created as a society. When in reality, when you let go, that is where the power comes from. Knowing that nothing externally can take away from the truth of who you are, right? But attachments take that identity, take that truth, and they place it into all these external things. And now when these external things leave or something happens or whatever it is, we feel like we lose ourselves. We feel like we're losing our power. We feel like we're losing control. And that's the illusion, and that's the trap that so many people fall into, me included. I was there. And it's something that you have to constantly work at, because you never reach a point where you're fully 100% at anything. No, you get to a place of awareness to where you can catch yourself and then bring yourself back to alignment, right? And that's where I'm at now, right? It's not about me being perfect. I still have times where I attach myself to something, or I hold on to something, or I do something from a place of lack or insecurity. But I catch myself and I bring myself back to alignment. And what that allows for you to do is it allows for you to learn from it rather than being stuck and hurt from it. Two totally different outcomes, two totally different energies, right? Thich Nhat Hanh, I think that's how you say it. He says, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If our heart, he says, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free. That is a fact. That's where the illusion is. The illusion is freedom comes from getting more. But true freedom is being able to let go of everything so that the right things come in and the things that aren't meant for you go out. Right? But we're not attaching ourselves to anything. That's true freedom. Attached to nothing. Connected to everything. That is freedom. Right? That is true freedom. But y'all need to understand something. The reason why these things are so difficult to comprehend in our society is because our society is literally rooted in fear and attachment, in greed, in ego, right? That is what our society is rooted in. So all the systems and all the things that we have in place are rooted from that, right? That's why it's so hard for people to grasp these concepts. But you need to understand that don't fall into the trap of the illusion that society and we as a society have created to where you feel like this stuff just isn't for you. It is for you. Each and every one of us has the power to do this. And when you start to do it, the same system, the same life that you were once living, the same world that you were once operating in shifts completely. Now you start to see these things as a totally different thing than they once were. Now you start to see the illusion. Now you start to see the deceit, right? Now you start to see the lies. And that's what letting go does. Letting go allows you to rip the veil off and start living in truth and alignment and authenticity rather than scarcity, fear, and ego, and lack, right? We were not made to feel like we're not enough. We were not made to feel wretched. We were not made to feel like, oh, we're just low and we're just not good enough. No, you are good enough, right? You do have the power within yourself to completely change your life. That is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us. God has given us the same power that created the universe within ourselves. We are creators ourselves, right? It says, we were made in the image of God. God is a creator. So are we. So if you're not creating, something's off. Something's not right. And because we don't feel empowered, because we feel like we're wretched, because we feel like we're not good enough, there's no way in hell we're going to feel like we're creators and we can actually create the life we want. But that's the lie. That's the deceit. You are a creator and you have everything you need within yourself to create the life that you want to live, that's meant for you. It's just about stepping away from the programming and conditioning of the past, bringing your attention to the present, and starting to make new choices, new decisions, new perspectives, and creating a new future. That's what it's about. But all that requires is letting go, right? Because we're so attached to our beliefs, our ideologies, people, places, things, we can never tap into that power. And that power only comes from when you let go. Let go and let God. You can't let go and let God if you're attached to things. You can't, right? You can't. And no attachment is good. I need y'all to understand that. There is not any good attachment, because attachment in itself comes from a place of ego and fear. That is literally where attachment comes from. You cannot be rooted in love and truth and be attached. They don't work together. When you start to root yourself in love and truth, the attachments start to diminish. You do start to let go of all these things because you understand, what I once put my identity and my truth in, I took back, and now I found it within myself. And now I don't need to attach myself to any of these things. Now I can be connected to all these things and start seeing these things differently, right? I can allow the flow of life to work in me and through me. In me and through me, right? Why do you think so many people aren't patient? They're attachments. Because you think your life needs to be looking like this at this specific time, it takes away from your ability to be patient and allow things to unfold at their own divine pace. Patience is a virtue. And when you root yourself in love, patience is a byproduct of that, because love is patient. So if you're struggling with patience, you need to get to the root of where that's coming from, because it's probably coming from a place of fear. It's probably coming from a place of lack, and it's probably coming from a place of attachment, and ego, right? Ego says we need to rush and have everything figured out. Spirit says let things unfold on their own divine timing. And guess what lies in the middle? You. Choose. Everything is a choice. I need you to understand that. Everything is a choice. It may not feel like it. It's a choice. It is a choice. Choose what you want to believe in. Choose the mindset you want to have. Choose the things you want to start to embody on a day-to-day basis. Choose what things you want to start giving energy to. Choose to either wake up or stay asleep. Choose to start feeling empowered or to keep feeling worthless. Choose. The choice is yours. The choice is yours. And that's what free will is. We have the ability and the freedom to choose what we want to do. But because we feel like things aren't a choice, that's another illusion, that we don't have a choice and we just have to confide by what society tells us every single day, and we don't have a choice and there's no other way. That's the illusion. But because so many of us have fallen into that trap, we slowly lose our power. And our power comes from our ability to choose. And when you start to choose different and get different, guess what you start to feel? Empowered. And that didn't come from anything external. That came from something inside of yourself. Something inside of yourself. So as you work on letting go, give yourself compassion. That's the first thing. Let go of the perfection that you feel like you need to create in your life. Let go of that. Let go of this idea that messing up is bad. Let go of this idea that if you make mistakes, you aren't growing. Let go of your attachment to want to have everything figured out at a certain time, right? Let go of all that and understand it's a process, it's a journey. Embrace it, right? Live in it. Be in the moment. Have fun with it. Watch how life unfolds for you in ways that you could have never imagined. That's what it's about. That is what it's about. This life was not meant to feel so negative all the time. It was not meant to do that. So if that's what your life constantly feels like, something is not right. Something's not aligned. But guess what you have? An opportunity to choose something different, or an opportunity to go down that path of figuring out where the root of that comes from and start to change it. You can do it. And you're not alone. You have the whole entire universe around you at all times. You have God within you at all times. Everything is connected. And you have access to all of that power right here. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. Do you know how liberating that is? The fact that you don't have to, it's not going to be in the money. It's not going to be in a person. It's not going to be in the materialistic things. It's not going to be in a building. It's not going to be in a book. It's right within yourself. You hold the key. God has given each and every one of us the key within ourselves. And when you tap into that, watch how your life unfolds. And we're going to do it together, y'all. Each and every one of you that listens to this podcast on a weekly basis, all the people that are new, I need you to understand we are all in this together. And we're all going to tap into that truth and that light that we have within us. And we're going to start to live empowered. We're going to start to live as creators. We're going to stop falling into the illusions that this society has put up to make us believe in these false indoctrinations. We're going to start living in the truth of who we actually are as human beings. Each and every one of us is different, but it's those differences that make us one and the same. Tap into your uniqueness, tap into your inner light, and understand you have the power to create the life that you want to live. You have the power to collaborate with the Creator and do amazing things. You have the power to completely change your life. You have the power to do that. You absolutely do. So when you give your power away to the attachments and to the external world, you feel powerless. When you tap into the truth and the light that you have within yourself, you feel powerful. You're full of power, right? But the more you give and the more you attach and the more you set expectations, right? And the more you root yourself in fear and allow fear to guide you and ego and all this thing, the more you are giving your power away. Because your gaze is constantly external. It's never internal. And if you're constantly looking for answers in the external world, you're always going to feel like you're not enough. You're always going to feel powerless. Or you're always going to have to find more attachments to feed that ego. When in reality, if you just let go and let God, guess what you're going to start feeling? Powerful. Uplifted. Aligned. Beautiful. Unique. Special. Chosen. So, as you go down this journey of letting go, ask questions, be curious, be childlike in thinking, but don't be childish. And how do you do that? You take everything that you hear and you see with a grain of salt. I will catch you guys next week. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And we out.